Tonight, imagine standing alone in a narrow, cobbled alleyway of a bustling 16th century city. The fog is rolling in off the river, carrying with it the heavy, sulfuric stench of coal smoke and the sharper, more biological odor of a city that hasn't quite figured out sewage. The darkness here is oppressive, broken only by the flickering light of a lantern swinging above a wooden door. You are cold, shivering not just from the damp air that seeps through your wool coat, but from a deeper, gnawing anxiety that is settled in your gut. You are waiting for a door to open, clutching a heavy purse of coins that represents your life savings. You probably wouldn't last long here. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Go ahead and comment your location and your local time. Let's mark this quiet vigil together across the dark. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You knock on the heavy oak door, a rhythmic, hollow sound that seems too loud in the quiet street. You are not here for a social call. You are here because of the secret you have been hiding under your sleeves and collar for weeks. It started as a small, painless sore, easy to ignore, a souvenir from a night you barely remember in a tavern you wish you could forget. But then the rash came. Then the aches that bore into your bones, feeling less like muscle strain and more like your skeleton is trying to escape your body. You know what it is. Everyone knows what it is. It is the great pox, the French disease, the Neapolitan disease. The name changes depending on who your country is currently at war with, but the horror remains the same. The door creaks open, revealing a man in a leather apron, his face obscured by the shadows of the apothecary shop. The smell hits you instantly, a dense, chaotic mix of dried herbs, camphor, and something metallic, like old pennies left in the rain. You step inside, and the door shuts behind you, cutting off the escape route. You are now in the domain of the physician, a man who trades in the currency of human misery. You unbutton your doublet with trembling fingers. The physician does not offer comfort. He does not ask how you are feeling emotionally. He is a mechanic of the flesh, and you are a broken carriage. He inspects the lesions on your arm with a detached curiosity, poking the inflamed skin with a finger that hasn't been washed since morning. He nods, a grim, satisfied gesture that seals your fate. He doesn't need to say the name of the disease. The shame in your eyes says it for him. The treatment he proposes is not a simple herbal tea or a prayer to Saint Roch. This beast, he explains, requires a heavy hand. The humors in your body are corrupted, thick with venom that must be purged. And the only substance strong enough to fight this demon is a metal that mimics the elusive, shifting nature of the disease itself. Mercury. Quicksilver. He moves to a shelf lined with ceramic jars, their labels faded and stained. He selects one and brings it to the table. Inside is a gray, greasy ointment. It looks innocuous, like a salve for a burn, but it is heavy. It is unguentum saracenicum, or perhaps simply gray, salve. It is a mixture of animal fat lard or butter and a massive concentration of elemental mercury. He explains the logic, which to your desperate ears sounds like science, though it is closer to alchemy. Mercury is a heavy, cold fluid. It will penetrate the body, seek out the poison, and force it out. You must apply this grease to your skin, rubbing it into the sores, into your armpits, into the groin. You must let the heavy metal soak into your pores until you are saturated with it. You look at the jar. It glitters faintly in the candlelight. It is beautiful, in a deadly sort of way. You ask if it will hurt. The physician shrugs. He tells you that the cure is a battle, and battles are never painless. He tells you that one night with Venus results in a lifetime with Mercury. It is a rehearsed line, a bit of physician humor that lands with a dull thud in the silence of the room. You don't laugh. You are too busy calculating how much of this poison you will have to absorb to be clean again. You pay him. The coins change hands, silver for quicksilver. You take the jar and a few pills also laced with the metal, and step back out into the night. The alleyway seems darker now. The fog feels thicker. You clutch the jar to your chest like a holy relic. You have the cure. You have the weapon that will defeat the pox. But as you walk home, you uncork the jar for a sniff. The smell is acrid, chemical, and wrong. It smells like the inside of a mine. You dip a finger in just to test the texture. It is cold and greasy. You rub a small amount onto the back of your hand. It disappears quickly, absorbed into the skin. Almost immediately, you feel a strange sensation, a coolness, a slight tingling. Historians still argue whether patients felt the toxicity immediately or if the placebo effect masked the initial poisoning. Standing there, rubbing the gray sludge into your skin, you tell yourself it feels like healing. You tell yourself that the metallic taste suddenly blooming at the back of your throat is just the medicine working. You are wrong. The taste is the first warning shot. It is the taste of your body realizing it has been invaded. Mercury is a neurotoxin, a cellular poison that binds to enzymes and destroys proteins. You are not healing yourself. You are beginning the process of pickling yourself alive. The physician didn't tell you about the side effects. He didn't tell you that the purging he promised would involve liters of saliva, loose teeth, and a madness that creeps in like the fog. You reach your home and bar the door. You strip off your clothes, shivering in the cold room. You begin the ritual. You scoop the gray fat onto your fingers and smear it over your body. You cover the sores. You rub it into your joints, hoping it will stop the deep, grinding ache. You glisten in the candlelight, a silver-coated statue of desperation. You wrap yourself in wool blankets, as instructed, to sweat out the disease. You lie down, the metallic taste growing stronger in your mouth, like you've been sucking on a spoon. You close your eyes, praying that the morning will bring relief. You imagine the Mercury hunting down the pox, a noble knight in silver armor slaying the dragon. You do not realize that the knight is drunk and swinging his sword wildly, hacking away at your kidneys, your liver, and your brain. You have invited a monster in to kill a monster. As you drift into a fitful chemical sleep, your gums begin to throb, a low rhythmic pulse that matches the beating of your heart. The cure has begun. And in the long, dark history of medicine, the cure is often just a slower, more expensive way to die. The ointment, it turns out, was too gentle. The gray sludge you dutifully smeared over your limbs for weeks did not banish the pox. It merely angered it, or perhaps the disease is simply too entrenched too deep in the marrow to be coaxed out by a topical grease. The physician shakes his head with a performance of grave disappointment, as if your body's failure to heal is a personal insult to his craft. He tells you that stronger measures are required. You must be purified. You must be purged. You must enter the tabernacle. He leads you to a back room, a space that feels less like a clinic and more like a torture chamber, though in the 16th century, the distinction is largely academic. In the center of the room stands a large wooden cabinet. It looks like a vertical coffin, or perhaps a privy that has been brought indoors by mistake. It is tall, narrow, and smells faintly of scorched wood and sulfur. This is the fumigation box, the stove, the vessel of your salvation. You are instructed to strip naked. The shame of your exposed sores is dull. Now, worn down by weeks of clinical prodding, you climb into the box. There is a small bench inside, hard and splintered. You sit, your knees drawn up, feeling ridiculous and vulnerable. The physician closes the door, latching it tight. There is a hole in the top for your head, and a leather collar is tightened around your neck to seal the gap. You are now a head resting on a wooden plinth, your body trapped in the dark below. It is essentially a sauna designed by a sociopath. Underneath the box, or sometimes on a tray at your feet, the physician places a brazier of hot coals. This would be uncomfortable enough on its own. A slow roasting of the soles of your feet, but heat is merely the delivery system. On top of the glowing embers, he sprinkles a red powder. It is cinnabar mercury sulfide. It is the ore from which the quicksilver is born. As the powder hits the coals, it does not burn. It sublimates. It transforms instantly from a red dust into a thick, silvery white vapor. Inside the box, the air turns opaque. You are sitting in a cloud of heavy metal. The heat rises, opening your pores, forcing your body to sweat. This is the theory. The heat melts the hard humors of the pox, and the mercury vapor enters through the skin to hunt the disease down. You are being marinated in poison. You cough as the fumes find their way through the gaps in the leather collar. The smell is distinct, a sharp, stinging scent that reminds you of a blacksmith's forge mixed with rotten eggs. You try to hold your breath, but the heat forces you to pant. You inhale the mercury. You absorb the mercury. You are cooking alive in a chemical stew. The sweat begins to pour off you. It runs down your chest, your back, stinging the open sores. The physician, watching you from the safety of the cool room, nods approvingly. He believes the sweat is the impurity leaving your body. He tells you to endure it. The fire burns out the sin, he says, a platitude that is easy to say when you aren't the one being smoked like a side of ham. But the sweat is not the main event. The true sign of the cure, the holy grail of the mercurial treatment, is the tielism, the salivation. Mercury is a potent toxin to the salivary glands. As your systemic load increases, your body desperately tries to excrete the poison through every available channel. Your mouth begins to water, and then it begins to flood. You feel a constant, thick accumulation of spit pooling behind your teeth. It is viscous, metallic tasting, and relentless. The physician places a bucket near the box. Spit, he commands. You spit. A rope of heavy saliva lands in the pail. He smiles. This, to him, is the disease leaving. He believes the virus is dissolved in the spit, physically exiting your body. He wants to see you fill that bucket. A good cure, by the standards of the day, requires the patient to produce 3 pints of saliva every 24 hours. You are literally drooling over the prospect of health. Time distorts inside the box. The heat makes you dizzy. The mercury makes you confused. You drift in and out of consciousness, your head lolling on the leather collar. You are dehydrated, parched, yet your mouth is overflowing. It is a cruel physiological paradox. You want water, but you can only produce poison. After an hour, or perhaps an eternity, the fire is allowed to die down. You are released from the box, weak as a kitten, your skin red and raw from the steam. You are wrapped in heated blankets and put to bed, not to rest, but to continue sweating. The mercury is still in you, working its dark magic. That night, the pain in your mouth changes. It is no longer just the metallic taste. It is a deep, throbbing ache in the jawbone. Your gums feel swollen, spongy to the touch. You run your tongue over them and taste blood. The mercury is attacking the soft tissue. The ulceration has begun. Your breath develops a fetid, rotting odor that no amount of herbs can mask. It is the smell of your own mouth dying. You try to eat a piece of bread, but your teeth feel loose. They wobble in their sockets like fence posts in mud. At least you won't have to worry about toothaches much longer, mostly because you won't have teeth. The physician assures you this is normal. The venom is loosening its grip, he says, mistaking the disintegration of your connective tissue for a medical victory. But the damage is not limited to your mouth. The vapor has traveled to your brain. You feel a strange, vibrating tremor in your hands. The hatter shakes. You try to hold a cup, and the water spills because your nerves are misfiring. Your handwriting, if you can write, becomes a jagged scrawl. Worse is the change in your mind. You feel a sudden, crushing depression, followed by bursts of irrational anxiety. You are terrified of the physician. You are terrified of the box. You start to hear whispers in the steam. Historians still argue whether the patients died from the dehydration of the sweat lodge or the neurotoxicity of the vapor. But lying there in the dark, you realize it doesn't matter. The mechanism of death is irrelevant when the experience is this agonizing. You look at the bucket by your bed. It is half full of bloody saliva. You have succeeded. You are purging the pox. But as you spit again, watching a molar fall into the pail, the weeks bleed into months, and the seasons change outside the thick glass of your window, but you hardly notice. You have become a prisoner of your own recovery. The physician, true to his word, has declared a victory. He stands at the foot of your bed, beaming with the pride of a general who has won a war by nuking the entire continent. He points to your skin. The jagged, weeping sores of the great pox have indeed receded. They have dried up, leaving behind shiny, silvery scars that look like trails of snail slime. The rash is gone. The bone pain of the syphilis has been replaced by a new, more pervasive agony. You are cured, he announces, wiping his hands on a rag that is likely dirtier than your floor. The venom has been driven out. He is technically correct, in the same way that burning down a house is a successful way to get rid of termites. The spirochaete bacteria that caused the pox has likely retreated deep into your tissues to hide from the toxic onslaught, or perhaps the mercury has simply poisoned your immune system so thoroughly that it can no longer mount the inflammation that caused the sores. Either way, the surface is clean. But underneath, the foundation has rotted away. You try to sit up to thank him, but your body refuses to cooperate. This is the mercurial tremor, a side effect so common it has its own name in the medical texts. It starts in the fingers, a fine, rhythmic shaking that makes it impossible to button a shirt or hold a spoon. It travels up the arms, into the neck, until your head bobs involuntarily like a marionette with a nervous tic. You reach for a cup of water, and by the time it reaches your lips, half of it is on your lap. You are vibrating with health. The physician calls this a robust response, which is medical code for, I am surprised you are not dead yet, but the tremor is a minor inconvenience compared to the dissolution of your face. The tyelism, the excessive drooling, has finally stopped, mostly because your salivary glands have burned out. Now your mouth is a dry, barren wasteland. The soft tissue of your gums, assaulted by the heavy metal for weeks, has turned a necrotic gray. It pulls back from the teeth, retreating from the poison. One morning, you wake up to find something hard and small on your pillow. It is a molar. It didn't hurt coming out. It just gave up. Over the next week, 3 more follow. You hold them in your shaking palm, examining the roots, which are black. You have achieved the dental profile of a newborn, but without the potential. The physician assures you that teeth are a small price to pay for your life, though he neglects to mention that chewing is now a historical concept for you. You will live on broth and mash for the rest of your short life. Then there is the smell. It is not the smell of the pox anymore. It is the mercurial feeder. It is a stench that rises from your lungs and your stomach, a heavy, metallic, rotten odor that fills the room. It smells like a wet dog wrapped in tin foil and left in the sun. Your family stops visiting. The maid holds a handkerchief to her face when she changes your sheets. You are rotting from the inside out, preserving yourself like a specimen in a jar. Only the jar is your own skin. But the most terrifying change is not physical. It is what the metal has done to your mind. Mercury is a neurotoxin that loves fat, and the human brain is largely made of fat. A silver vapor has crossed the blood-brain barrier and settled into the neurons, short-circuiting the electrical pathways of your personality. This is erethism, the madness of the heavy metals. You find yourself gripped by a paralyzing, irrational shyness. If someone knocks on the door, you hide under the bed, heart hammering as if a wolf were scratching at the latch. You are terrified of judgment, of being seen, of interaction. A simple question from the physician. How is your bowel movement? sends you into a spiral of weeping anxiety. You are a grown man, a former merchant or soldier, reduced to a trembling child by a mineral. This timidity is punctuated by sudden, violent outbursts of rage. You throw a bowl of gruel at the wall because it is too hot. You scream at the dust motes dancing in the light. Your family watches you with wide, fearful eyes. They don't recognize you. The pox didn't take your soul, but the cure has. You have become a stranger in your own house, a ghost haunting a body that is still technically breathing. You spend your days sitting by the window, wrapped in blankets, staring at nothing. The mercury has settled in the lenses of your eyes, creating a condition called mercuria lentis. The world looks slightly discolored to you, tinged with a brown or gray reflex. You are literally seeing the world through a filter of poison. You try to write a letter to your brother, to explain your state, perhaps to update your will. You dip the quill in the ink, but your hand shakes so violently that the ink splatters across the parchment like blood. You try to steady it with your other hand, but that one shakes too. The two vibrations cancel each other out into a chaotic scribble. You throw the quill down and weep. You cannot even sign your name to leave your belongings to your children. You are legally alive, but functionally erased. The physician visits less often now. There is nothing left for him to do. He has cured you. The check is cleared. He marks you down in his ledger as a success story. And in the strict definition of his trade, you are. The syphilis is dormant. You are not contagious. You are a triumph of modern medicine. But late at night, when the house is quiet and the tremors keep you awake, you wonder about the nature of the bargain. You traded a disease that might have killed you in 10 years for a cure that has destroyed you in 3 months. You are a walking repository of toxic waste. If you were to die tonight and be cremated, the smoke from your body would poison the entire neighborhood. You are less a man and more a barometer. Your aching bones can predict the rain better than any instrument. You look at your reflection in the polished metal of a basin. The face staring back is gray, gaunt, and toothless. The hair has thinned to wisps. The eyes are wild and darting. You realize that the slow dissolution of the self is not a metaphor. The metal has replaced the man. You are a statue made of flesh, hardened and hollowed out, waiting for the final crack. Eventually, the organs will fail. The kidneys, choked with the heavy metal they tried so hard to filter, will shut down. The liver will surrender. You will slip into a coma, not from the pox, but from the waste products your body can no longer excrete. But for now, you sit in the chair, vibrating, drooling slightly, a cured man enjoying the fruits of medical science. You have survived the disease. It is a shame you won't survive the survival. Leave the silence of the mercury-poisoned room behind. Let the fog clear, or rather exchange it for a different kind of haze, the bustle of a busy street in broad daylight. You are no longer shivering in a cold sweat. You are burning up. Your skin is hot to the touch. Your head is pounding with a rhythmic thudding pressure, and your eyes feel like they are being pushed out of their sockets from the inside. In the modern world, you would take an ibuprofen and go to bed. Here, you go to the barber. You step into the shop. The air is thick, humid, and smells of a disturbing combination of lavender soap, stale beer, and old, coppery blood. It is a sensory confusion that makes your stomach turn. To your left, a man is getting a shave, the razor scraping against his stubble with a sound like tearing parchment. To your right, a man is having a tooth pulled, his muffled groans providing a grim soundtrack to the morning. And in the center, waiting for you, is the empty chair. The man approaching you is not a university-trained physician in a velvet robe. He is a craftsman in a blood-stained apron. He is a barber surgeon. In the hierarchy of medieval medicine, he is the manual laborer. The physicians think. The barbers cut. This man can trim your beard, lance a boil, amputate a leg, and give you a stylish bowl cut, all for a few coins. He is the ultimate multitasker of the flesh. You sit in the chair. It is wood, worn smooth by the backsides of thousands of patients before you. You explain your symptoms, the fever, the headache, the feeling of fullness in your chest. He nods sagely, wiping a straight razor on his thigh. He doesn't need to check your temperature or listen to your heart. He knows exactly what is wrong with you. You are suffering from plethora. The logic is impeccably simple, in a terrifying sort of way. The body, according to the ancient Greeks and everyone since, contains 4 humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Health is a balance. Sickness is an imbalance. Your fever is not caused by a virus or a bacteria. Those invisible monsters haven't been invented yet. Your fever is caused by having too much blood. Your body is a pot of soup that is boiling over because the lid is on too tight. To cool the soup, you must remove some of the broth. It makes a twisted kind of sense. When you are hot, you turn red. Red is the color of blood. Therefore, the heat is the blood. Remove the blood, remove the heat. It is reasoning that works perfectly for a radiator, but significantly less well for a human being fighting an infection. The barber prepares his tools. He does not wash his hands. The concept of germs is centuries away, and besides, his hands are covered in the dried fluids of the previous 3 customers, which he likely views as a badge of experience rather than a biohazard. He picks up a fleam or a lancet, a small, double-edged blade that folds into a handle like a pocket knife. He tests the edge against his thumb. It is sharp enough to cut, but dull enough to hurt. He rolls up your sleeve. He is looking for a specific vein. The roadmap of your arm is an astrological chart to him. The cephalic vein is for headaches. The basilic vein is for the liver. He acts with the confidence of a bomb disposal expert, except he wants the bomb to go off. He takes a fillet, a strip of cloth, and ties it tightly around your upper arm. He twists a small stick into the knot, tightening it until your hand turns purple, and the veins in your elbow bulge like angry blue worms. You watch this with a detached horror. There is something deeply unnatural about seeing your own plumbing exposed this way. The barber taps the vein with his finger. A hollow, wet sound. A good bounding pulse, he says cheerfully. Ripe for the harvest. He reaches for the bowl. It is a shallow dish, usually made of pewter or ceramic. Sometimes, if the barber is fancy, it is brass. It is specifically designed to catch your life force. It often has a notch cut out of the rim to fit snugly against your arm. He places it under your elbow. You look out the window. Outside the shop, a pole is spinning in the wind. It is painted with red and white spirals. You have seen it 1,000 times, but today, sitting in the chair, you truly understand it. The white is the bandage. The red is the blood. The pole itself is the stick you are gripping right now to make your veins pop. It is not a festive decoration. It is a graphic menu of services. You are currently ordering the red special. Look away, the barber advises, not out of kindness, but because he doesn't want you to faint before he starts. Fainting is for after the bleeding. You turn your head toward the wall, where a shelf displays jars of leeches, the gentle option for those too squeamish for the knife. The leeches swim lazily in murky water, looking like swimming pickles. You wonder if you should have chosen the pickles. But the barber says the knife is faster, cleaner, and more decisive. You feel his hand steady your arm. His grip is iron strong. He positions the lancet over the vein. There is no countdown. There is no on 3. There is just the sudden sharp violence of metal breaching skin. It feels like a bee sting, but deeper, colder. You gasp, your body's instinct to pull away, overridden by the barber's grip. The pressure in your arm releases instantly, not with a sigh, but with a spurt. You hear it before you see it, a wet, rhythmic drumming against the metal of the bowl. Tap dash tap dash tap dash tap. It is the sound of your heart beating outside your body. The barber grunts in satisfaction. Dark, he observes, peering into the bowl. Very dark. The bad blood is coming out first. This is another convenient fiction. Venous blood is always dark red because it lacks oxygen. Arterial blood is bright red. But to the barber, the darkness is proof of corruption. He believes he is draining the swamp. He tells you that the fever is flowing out into the dish, that the bad humors are being physically evicted. You try to believe him. You try to tell yourself that the lightheadedness creeping in at the edges of your vision is relief. You try to ignore the fact that you are essentially paying a man to stab you in a strip mall. The smell of fresh blood fills the small space between you. It is sharp, metallic, and primal. It cuts through the lavender soap. It triggers a deep, lizard brain panic in you. I am leaking, your brain screams. Plug the hole, but you sit still. You let it happen. Because everyone says this is the cure. The king does it. The Pope does it. George Washington will eventually die from it. Who are you to argue with the collective wisdom of the ages? The barber chats as the bowl fills. He talks about the local gossip, the price of grain, the scandal at the Abbey. It is a surreal juxtaposition. He is discussing the weather while holding a cup of your blood. The bowl in the barber's hand is becoming heavy. You watch the level of the crimson fluid rise, swirling against the white ceramic, mesmerizing in its vibrancy. It is startlingly bright, a color that belongs inside of you, not out here in the gray light of the shop. It is the most colorful thing in the room, and it is leaving you at a rate that in any other context would be considered a fatal wound. But here, in the chair, it is merely a transaction. You are paying with your blood to buy back your health. The sound of the flow changes. It started as a sharp, rhythmic spurt, keeping time with the anxious drumming of your heart. Now it has settled into a steady, dark stream, quiet and relentless. She. It sounds like a stream of wine being decanted. You find yourself staring at it with a strange detachment, as if the arm resting on the wooden armrest belongs to someone else, a mannequin that you have been hired to observe. It flows well, the barber murmurs, giving the bowl a slight swirl to keep the blood from clotting too soon. The humor is eager to leave. It knows it is not wanted. You try to nod, to agree with his diagnosis, but your head feels unmoored. It feels like a balloon tethered to your neck by a very thin string. A sensation of profound lightness begins to spread through your chest. It is not the lightness of relief. It is the lightness of a hull that has lost its ballast. You are emptying out. The plethora, the excess is draining away, but it seems to be taking the you along with it. The physical symptoms of hypovolemic shock begin to set in, though neither you nor the barber has a name for them yet. To you, they are the signs of the cure taking hold. First, the periphery of your vision begins to darken. It is as if the room is slowly filling with smoke, starting from the corners and creeping toward the center. The barber's face, once sharp and distinct, blurs into a smudge of pale skin and dark apron. Then comes the sound. A high-pitched ringing starts in your ears, a thin, metallic whine like a wet finger circling the rim of a crystal glass. It grows louder, drowning out the street noise, drowning out the barber's voice. It is the sound of your own brain starving for oxygen. You look pale, the barber observes, not with alarm, but with satisfaction. The heat is leaving the face. The fever is breaking. He is mistaking the pallor of near death for the coolness of health. Your skin has turned a clammy, waxen gray. Beads of cold sweat, the death sweat, break out on your forehead and upper lip. You feel a sudden, violent wave of nausea roil in your gut. Your body is screaming in panic, triggering every emergency protocol it has to keep you alive. It clamps down the blood vessels in your hands and feet, sacrificing the extremities to save the core. Your fingers go numb. Your toes feel like blocks of ice. I feel, you start to say, but your voice is a croak, thin and reedy. Dizzy? The barber finishes for you. Good. That is the turning point. We bleed ad deliquium until the faint. It is the only way to be sure we have taken enough. This is the terrifying logic of the procedure. The endpoint is not a specific measurement of liquid. The endpoint is the collapse of the patient. The fainting is not a side effect. It is the goal. It proves that the tension in the vascular system has been broken. It proves that the raging river of your blood has been dammed effectively. If you are strong and resilient, you lose more blood before you drop. If you are weak and frail, you drop sooner. The treatment perfectly calibrates itself to take you to the absolute brink of your endurance, and then push you 1 inch further. The tunnel vision snaps shut. The world contracts to a single pinprick of light, and then nothing. You are gone. You slide sideways in the chair, your head lolling onto your chest. The barber is ready for this. He has done this 1,000 times. He deftly removes the bowl before you spill the precious harvest. He unhooks the tourniquet with a practiced flick of his wrist. He presses a pad of linen against the wound, stemming the tide. You wake up on the floor, or perhaps slumped back in the chair with the barber wafting a bottle of vinegar under your nose. The smell is sharp, acidic, and pulls you back from the void with a jolt. You gasp, sucking in air that feels too thin. The room spins violently before settling into a swaying, unsteady tilt. You feel terrible. You feel worse than you did when you walked in. You are weak, trembling, and your arm throbs with a dull, insistent ache. But the fever? You check yourself. The raging heat that consumed you this morning is gone. Your skin is cool to the touch. Your pulse, which was bounding and aggressive, is now thready and weak. See? The barber says, wiping his hands on a rag. The fire is out. He is right, technically. Your body no longer has the energy to sustain a fever. A fever requires calories and oxygen to burn. You have just thrown a bucket of water on the furnace. You haven't cured the infection. You have simply mugged the immune system. You are too weak to be symptomatic. To the medieval mind, this is a cure. To a modern mind, this is creating a new crisis to distract from the old one. The barber brings the bowl over to you. The blood has begun to settle and clot. He wants you to inspect it. This is uroscopy, but for blood, hematoscopy. He points to the surface of the congealing mass. Look at the crust, he says, pointing to a layer of yellowish-white scum on top of the red jelly. That is the buffy coat. That is the phlegm. That is the corruption that was poisoning you. This is the great tragic irony of bloodletting. The buffy coat is actually fibrin and white blood cells, the very agents your body produced to fight the infection you came in with. When blood settles, these cells rise to the top. The more infected you are, the thicker this layer is. So, the barber sees the evidence of your body fighting for its life, and interprets it as filth that needed to be removed. Even worse, bleeding a patient increases the production of these cells as the body scrambles to recover, meaning the next time you are bled, the coat will be even thicker, confirming the barber's suspicion that you need more bleeding. It is a feedback loop of doom. You are lucky we caught it, he says, poking the jelly with a stick. Another day, and this bile would have reached the heart. You nod weakly, grateful to be saved. You pay him the fee a few pennies for the privilege of being drained. He bandages your arm tightly, perhaps too tightly, but you don't complain. You just want to go home. You stand up, and your knees buckle. The barber catches you. The scene shifts. The sunlight of the street and the cheerful spinning pole of the barber shop are distant memories now. You are no longer upright. You are lying in a bed that smells of old linen, lavender, and the sour, inescapable scent of your own mortality. The curtains are drawn, plunging the room into a permanent, suffocating twilight. You are not alone. The room is crowded with men in heavy robes, their faces grave, their voices low and urgent. This is the consultation. You are the geography they are debating, a map of symptoms to be argued over while the territory itself slowly crumbles into the sea. You are dying. You know it. Your family, weeping softly in the corner, knows it. But the physicians do not know it, or rather, they refuse to accept it. To them, death is not an inevitability. It is a professional failure, an insult to their learning that must be fought with every weapon in their arsenal. And their arsenal contains only one weapon of mass destruction: the lancet. You are exhausted. Not the tiredness of a long day, or even the fatigue of the second sleep. This is a cellular exhaustion. Your heart flutters like a trapped bird against your ribs, terrified and weak. Your breath comes in shallow, ragged gasps, each one a battle against the weight sitting on your chest. You are shivering, your skin cold and clammy, your extremities already turning the blue-gray of a winter dusk. To a modern paralytic, you are in hypovolemic shock and respiratory failure. You need fluids, you need oxygen, you need warmth. But to the learned men standing over you, your gasping is not a sign of lack, it is a sign of excess. They interpret your desperate struggle to breathe as a violent agitation of the humors. They see your convulsions as a surplus of energy that must be released. You are thrashing, therefore you are too strong. To save you, they decide, they must weaken you further. The pulse is hard. One physician lies, his finger pressing against your wrist where the beat is barely a whisper. There is still too much fire in the blood. We must extinguish it. You want to scream. You want to tell them that you are freezing, that you are empty, that you need every drop of life left in you to keep the darkness at bay, but you cannot speak. Your tongue is a dry piece of leather in your mouth. You are a prisoner of their expertise. The preparation begins. It is a grim parody of the barber shop, stripped of all casual banter. There is no talk of the weather here. There is only the frantic, sweaty urgency of men trying to reverse a landslide with a shovel. They strip back the covers. They hunt for a vein. But your veins have gone into hiding. Your body, in its final act of self-preservation, has clamped down every vessel, hoarding the blood for the brain and the heart. The blue road map on your arms has vanished. The physicians are frustrated. They slap your arm. They rub it with rough cloths to irritate the skin. They tie the tourniquet so tight it bruises your wasting muscle. It hides, one mutters, angry at your anatomy for being uncooperative. We must go deeper. They decide on the jugular. You feel the cold steel against your neck. You are too weak to flinch. You just stare up at the canopy of the bed, watching the dust motes dance in the shaft of light coming through the curtain. They look like stars. You wonder if you are floating among them already. The cut is made. It is not the clean, sharp sting of the barber's razor. It is a messy, desperate incision. But there is no fountain. There is no spurt. Your blood pressure is so low that the fluid merely oozes, dark and thick like treacle. It trickles down your neck, staining the pillow. The physicians are panicked now. This lack of flow is not seen as a sign that you are empty. It is seen as a sign that the blood is congealed and obstinate. They must force it out. They call for the cupping glasses. They heat glass cups over a candle flame until the air inside is scorching hot. Then they slam them onto your skin, on your back, your chest, your thighs. As the air cools, it creates a vacuum. You feel your skin being sucked up into the glass, a sharp, pinching pain that drags you back from the edge of unconsciousness. They use a device called a scarificator, a spring-loaded box with a dozen small blades that snaps down, slicing a grid of cuts into your skin. Then the cup goes back on, sucking the blood out through the fresh wounds. You are being harvested. They are wringing you out like a wet towel. The physical sensation is one of profound, accelerating cold. As the last pint of blood leaves your body, the gray fog you experienced in the mercury box returns. But this time, it is final. The sounds of the room begin to stretch and warp. The weeping in the corner sounds like it is underwater. The physicians' voices become a slow, deep drone. It is coming. one says triumphantly, holding up a cup filled with dark, sluggish fluid. See? The corruption leaves him. They have successfully treated the symptom of being alive. Your thrashing stops. Your gasping quiets. You sink back into the pillows, motionless, pale as marble. To them, this looks like peace. They believe they have calmed the storm. They pat each other on the back. They have eased your passage. They have relieved the pressure. But you know the truth in your final moments. You are not calm. You are empty. You are a ghost who has been evicted from your own house before the lease was up. The blood they took was the fuel for the engine, and now the engine has stalled. You feel a strange, vibrating hum in your bones. It is the silence of the body shutting down. The heart, deprived of volume, flutters wildly ventricular tachycardia, trying to pump a fluid that isn't there. It feels like a moth trapped in your chest. And then it stops. The darkness closes in, not like a wall, but like a tide. It is gentle, indifferent, and absolute. You look at the physician one last time. He is wiping his lancet on a cloth, looking satisfied. He genuinely believes he helped. He believes that by draining the life out of you, he saved you from the agony of the fever. He doesn't realize that the fever was the only thing keeping you warm. The irony is absolute. You are dying of a disease that kills by exhaustion, perhaps consumption or typhus, and the medical intervention was to exhaust you faster. It is the equivalent of trying to put out a fire by removing the oxygen from the room, oblivious to the fact that the person inside needs to breathe. As your vision fades to black, you realize that the most dangerous thing in the room was never the bacteria or the virus. It was the philosophy. It was the belief that the body is a simple hydraulic machine that can be fixed by opening a valve. You are the victim. The silence of the deathbed fades, replaced not by the peace of the grave, but by a sound that is the absolute antithesis of rest. It is a high, rhythmic, piercing shriek that scrapes against the inside of your skull like a rusty nail. You have moved forward in time, leaving the medieval mud and the Renaissance bloodletting behind for the soot-stained brick and gaslight of the Victorian era. But the desperation remains unchanged. You are standing in a nursery, the wallpaper peeling slightly in the corner, the air thick with the smell of coal smoke and sour milk. You are pacing the floorboards, a frantic rhythmic march, bouncing a small bundled weight in your arms. You are a parent, or perhaps a nursemaid, and you are exhausted beyond the capacity for rational thought. The baby has been crying for 4 hours. It is the cry of teething hot, angry, and relentless. The gums are swollen, the face is red, and the small body is rigid with a pain you cannot explain away. You have tried everything. You have walked. You have rocked. You have sung every lullaby in the county. You have rubbed the gums with a cold silver spoon. Nothing has worked. The cry continues, a siren that shreds your nerves and makes your hands shake. You are sleep-deprived to the point of hallucination. The gas lamp flickers, and for a moment, the shadows in the room look like they are judging you. You feel a flash of resentment toward this tiny, suffering creature, a dark, intrusive thought that immediately drowns you in guilt. You just want it to stop. You just want the silence back. You would give anything, pay anything, for 10 minutes of quiet. Your eyes drift to the shelf above the changing table. There, sitting innocently between the hairbrush and the talcum powder, is the answer. It is a glass bottle, dark blue or amber, with a comforting, familiar label. It might say, Mrs. Winslow's Soothing Syrup. It might say, Godfrey's Cordial, or perhaps Street's Infant Quietness. The branding is gentle. It features an illustration of a serene mother holding a sleeping angel of a child. It promises relief. It promises soothing. It promises that it is perfectly harmless. You reach for it. You are not a villain. You are not trying to hurt your child. You are a victim of the era's aggressive marketing and non-existent regulations. You live in a world where chemistry has advanced faster than ethics, and where the corner pharmacist is a vendor of unregulated miracles. You have been told by the advertisements in the penny papers that this syrup is the mother's friend. You have seen the testimonials. Why would they sell it if it weren't safe? You uncork the bottle. A sweet, cloying scent drifts up molasses, sassafras, anise, or peppermint. It smells like candy. It smells like love. But beneath the sugar and the spice lies the active ingredient, the heavy, dark anchor that makes the medicine work. It is opium, or morphine sulfate, or powdered laudanum. These syrups are not medicine in the modern sense. They are narcotics in a sugar solution. Godfrey's cordial, a staple of the English working class, is colloquially known as the quietness. It is a mixture of treacle, molasses, water, and opium tincture. It is cheaper than gin, and it is available to anyone with a few pennies. In the cramped tenements of London or New York, where mothers must work 12-hour shifts in the factories, this bottle is the only babysitter they can afford. It is the tool of the baby farmers, the women paid to watch the neighborhood children, who line the infants up and dose them one by one until the nursery is as silent as a crypt. But you are not a baby farmer. You are just a tired parent in a drafty house. You pick up a spoon. The instructions on the bottle are vague. Half a teaspoon for a 6-month-old, it might suggest. But your hand is shaking. The light is dim. And the baby is screaming so loud you can't think. You pour the syrup. It is thick, dark, and sticky. Maybe you pour a little too much. Maybe the spoon is a tablespoon, not a teaspoon. Maybe you think he is big for his age. He needs a little extra to settle him. There is another danger hiding in the bottle, one that the label certainly doesn't mention. These mixtures are suspensions, not solutions. The opium doesn't dissolve perfectly. It settles. If the bottle has been sitting on the shelf for weeks, the narcotics sink to the bottom, forming a potent sludge of concentrated death. If you forget to shake the bottle, and in your exhaustion, you almost certainly forget, the first 20 doses might be mostly sugar water, ineffective and harmless. But the last dose? The last dose is the sediment. The last dose is pure poison. You bring the spoon to the baby's lips. He turns his head away, screaming, fighting you. You persist. You pry the little mouth open and slip the spoon in. He tastes the sugar and the anise. He swallows. You give him a second spoonful, just to be sure. Or perhaps you dip a rag or a pacifier into the syrup and let him suck on it. You wipe the sticky residue from his chin. The smell of licorice hangs in the air. Now you wait. The effect is not instantaneous, but it is rapid. The crying doesn't taper off. It is severed. The screams turn into whimpers. The whimpers turn into heavy, wet breaths. The rigid, arching back relaxes. The small fists uncurl. The baby's eyes, which were squeezed shut in rage, flutter open, glassy and unfocused, before rolling back as the heavy lids slide down. The silence rushes back into the room. It is sudden and overwhelming. It feels like a physical weight lifting off your shoulders. You let out a breath you didn't know you were holding. You feel a profound wave of gratitude toward Mrs. Winslow and her miraculous syrup. You feel like a good parent. You have taken away the pain. You have soothed the savage beast. You lay the baby down in the crib. He settles instantly, sinking into the mattress with a heaviness that should alarm you, but doesn't. You pull the blanket up to his chin. He looks peaceful. He looks like the drawing on the label. You don't know that his liver, the size of a plum, is struggling to process a dose of morphine that would stagger a grown man. You do not know that the alcohol in the syrup often, up to 6%, is thinning his blood and depressing his central nervous system. You don't know that the soothing effect is actually the onset of a narcotic coma. The Victorian medical establishment knows, but they are slow to act. They call these children shrunken little old men or wizened monkeys because the chronic opiate use starves them. The opium suppresses the appetite. The baby stops eating, because he is too stoned to feel hunger. He wastes away, turning gray and skeletal, but he never cries. He is the good baby. He is the quiet baby. You cap the bottle and place it back on the shelf. You lick a drop of the syrup from your own finger. It tastes sweet, with a bitter, metallic aftertaste that lingers on the tongue. You feel a tiny buzz, a ghost of the sedation that is currently flooding your child's brain. You sit down in the rocking chair, listening to the silence. It is beautiful. It is golden. You can hear the clock ticking again. You can hear the rain against the window pane. You close your eyes, finally able to rest. You drift off to sleep, comforted by the knowledge that the bottle is there, ready for the next time the screaming starts. You trust the bottle. It is your ally in the war against the night. You do not realize that you have just played a game of Russian roulette with a spoon. You do not realize that the silence in the crib is not the silence of sleep, but the silence of a system shutting down. The breathing is slowing. The heart rate is dropping. The gap between inhales is getting longer and longer and longer. But for now, you sleep. You enjoy the quiet. You have purchased peace for the price of a few pennies and a teaspoon of sugar. The nursery is still. The shadows lengthen. And the bottle on the shelf watches over the room, a dark sentry holding its liquid secret, waiting for the morning that might not come. The clock on the mantel ticks. It is a slow, deliberate sound, a mechanical heartbeat that seems to have grown louder in the last hour. Tick, tock, tick, tock. You are sitting in the armchair, your hands resting on your lap, enjoying the reprieve you so desperately paid for. The screaming has stopped. The nursery is calm. The storm has passed, smoothed over by the dark, sweet oil of the poppy. But as the minutes stretch into an hour, the quality of the silence begins to change. It shifts from the golden relief of peace to something heavier, colder, and grayer. It is a silence that feels thick, as if the air in the room has turned to gelatin. In a house full of life, there should be sounds. The rustle of sheets, the squeak of a crib spring, the soft, congested snuffle of a sleeping infant. There is nothing. You try to ignore the prickle of unease at the base of your neck. You tell yourself this is what you wanted. This is what the bottle promised. Infant quietness. You have achieved the objective. But the instinct that lives in your gut, the primal, lizard brain alarm system that kept your ancestors alive in the caves, is starting to vibrate. It tells you that total silence in nature usually means a predator is nearby, or that the prey is dead. You stand up slowly, the floorboards groaning under your weight. You walk to the crib. You tell yourself you are just checking the blanket, just making sure he is warm. You are not worried. You are certainly not checking to see if you have committed a crime. You look down. The baby is lying on his back, arms splayed out in a pose of utter surrender. He looks angelic. That is the word the poets would use. His skin is pale, translucent like fine china, glowing faintly in the dim light. He is perfectly still, too still. A sleeping baby is usually a chaotic engine of growth. They twitch, they grimace. Their eyelids flutter as they dream of milk and shapes. Their chests rise and fall with a rapid, shallow rhythm, like a small bird. But this baby looks like a wax doll that has been left on a shelf. The muscles of the face are slack, ironing out the personality, leaving a blank, expressionless mask. You lean closer. You need to see the breath. You stare at the tiny chest. You wait. And you wait. Tick, tock. The clock marks the seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. There is no movement. Panic, cold and sharp, spikes in your chest. You reach out a hand, your fingers trembling slightly, and touch the baby's cheek. It is cool. Not the cold of the grave, thankfully, but a clammy, damp coolness that feels like a fish. The skin is diaphoretic, sweating out the toxins. Just as you are about to scream, the chest hitches. It rises in a sudden, jerky motion, sucks in a shallow gasp of air, and then collapses back into stillness. You let out a breath you didn't know you were holding. He is alive. He is breathing. But the rhythm is wrong. It is slow. Painfully, terrifyingly slow. Instead of the rapid 30 breaths a minute of a healthy infant, he is taking perhaps 8. This is respiratory depression. The morphine has latched onto the receptors in his brainstem, the ones that tell the body, carbon dioxide is building up. You need to inhale. The syrup is whispering to his lungs that breathing is optional. It is a chemical lullaby that is singing him toward the long sleep. You watch the cycle repeat, the long pause, the terrifying stillness, the sudden shallow gasp. This is Cheyne-Stokes respiration, the breathing pattern of the dying, appearing in the nursery of the living. You are witnessing a body hovering on the threshold, deciding whether it has the energy to take the next step. You notice something else. You lean in until your nose is almost touching his. You look at his eyes. The eyelids are not fully closed. They are cracked open slightly, revealing a sliver of white. You gently lift one lid. The pupil is a pinpoint. It is a tiny black dot, constricted to the size of a needle tip. It does not react to the shadow of your hand. It is the hallmark of the opiate. You are looking into the eyes of an addict who weighs 12 pounds. A wave of nausea rolls over you. You realize, with a sickening clarity, that the peace you felt earlier was a lie. You haven't soothed him. You have stunned him. You have bludgeoned his nervous system into submission with a hammer wrapped in velvet. You debate waking him. You want to shake him, to see the color return to his cheeks, to hear him cry. You would give anything to hear him scream now. The scream is life. The scream is oxygen. But you are afraid. What if you can't wake him? What if he is too deep? And deeper down, a darker, more selfish fear whispers, if I wake him, the noise starts again. So you compromise. You adjust the blanket. You stroke his hair. You nudge him gently, just enough to provoke a grunt or a shift. He stirs barely, a sluggish movement, like a swimmer moving through treacle. It is enough to reassure you, but not enough to wake him. You step back. This is the trap of the soothing syrup. It works too well. And because it works, you will use it again. Tomorrow night, when the teething pain returns, or when the colic strikes, or simply when you are too tired to function, you will reach for the blue bottle. You will justify it. He needs his rest, you will say. I need my rest, but the damage is not just in the breathing. The tragedy of the syrup is a slow-motion disaster. Because the baby sleeps so soundly, he sleeps through his feedings. He doesn't wake up to nurse. The opium suppresses his appetite, dulling the hunger pangs that drive survival. Over the next few weeks, you will notice he is losing weight. His limbs will grow thin, the skin hanging loose on his bones. He will look like a wizened little old man, a term the doctors use with a grim familiarity. This is marasmus starvation. But you won't blame the syrup. You will blame the wasting sickness. You will blame the milk. You will blame the air. And the cure for a fussy, wasting, sickly baby? Why, more syrup, of course, to soothe his discomfort, to help him rest so he can grow. You are caught in a feedback loop of death. The medicine causes the starvation, and the starvation demands more medicine. You are slowly, lovingly, killing your child with a teaspoon of sugar. Historians still argue how many infants died this way. Some say thousands, others say tens of thousands. The death certificates rarely said opium overdose. They said convulsions, inanition, or failure to thrive. The evidence was buried in tiny coffins, while the makers of Mrs. Winslow's soothing syrup built mansions with the profits. You turn away from the crib, unable to watch the agonizingly slow rhythm of his chest any longer. You walk to the window and look out at the gaslit street. The fog is swirling around the lampposts. The world outside is dark and cold, but it feels safer than the room you are in. You feel a profound loneliness. You are the guardian of this life, and you have failed it by trying to make it convenient. You realize that the noise of the crying was the sound of the baby fighting for his place in the world. By silencing it, you haven't brought peace. You have brought a truce with the grave. The bottle sits on the shelf, catching the glint of the firelight. It looks innocent. It looks helpful. But now, to your eyes, it looks like a predator waiting for its turn. You vow to throw it away. You promise yourself you will pour it down the drain in the morning. But as you settle back into the chair, exhaustion pulling at your own eyelids, you wonder if you will keep that promise. The silence of the nursery fades, replaced by the damp, rattling sound of your own chest. You have left the Victorian home for the turn of the century, a time of grand optimism and shiny new science. The gas lamps are being replaced by electric bulbs. Horses are sharing the road with automobiles. And the messy, herbal concoctions of the past are being swept away by the clean, precise chemistry of the laboratory. You are a modern person, suffering from a very old problem, the winter cough. It is a dry, hacking spasms that seizes you in the middle of the night, shaking your ribs until they ache. It is tuberculosis, or bronchitis, or perhaps just the accumulated soot of the industrial age lining your lungs. Whatever the cause, it is exhausting. You cannot sleep. You cannot work. You are coughing up your strength, one rattle at a time. But unlike your ancestors, you do not have to suffer. You walk into a pharmacy, a temple of polished wood and glass jars. You are not looking for a dubious syrup mixed in a bathtub. You are looking for the latest miracle from Germany. You are looking for the bottle with the blue cross. You ask the pharmacist for the new cough suppressant from Bayer. He nods enthusiastically. It is the wonder drug of the decade. Introduced in 1898, it is said to be 5 times more effective than morphine, but, crucially, non-addictive. It is safe for children, safe for the elderly, and perfect for the working man. The name on the bottle is bold and heroic. In fact, that is exactly what they called it. Heroin. You buy a bottle. It is diacetylmorphine, a chemical modification of the morphine molecule designed to pass through the blood-brain barrier faster. You take it home. You pour a spoonful. It tastes bitter, medicinal, and potent. You swallow. The effect is not like the slow, drowsy drift of the nursery syrup. This is faster. It hits the back of your throat with a numbing warmth. Within minutes, the sensation spreads. It travels down your esophagus, expanding into your chest like a bloom of golden heat. And then, the miracle happens. The tickle in your throat, the constant itching irritation that has been plaguing you for weeks, simply vanishes. It is not that your throat has healed. The inflammation is still there. The mucus is still there. But the signal has been cut. Heroin acts directly on the medulla oblongata, the primitive part of your brainstem that controls the cough reflex. It flips the switch to off. Your brain simply stops receiving the memo that you need to cough. The violent spasms cease instantly. The relief is profound. You take a deep breath, and for the first time in days, it doesn't trigger a fit. You feel cured, but the relief comes with a passenger. As the drug settles into your receptors, you feel a shift in your perception. The pain in your ribs fade. Shake off the lethargy of the opium den and the damp cough of the Victorian slum. Step forward into the crisp, electric air of the 1920s. You are no longer a tired parent or a sickly worker. You are a captain of industry, a man of means, wearing a tailored suit and standing in a bathroom tiled with pristine white porcelain. The world has changed. Science is no longer about balancing humors or suppressing coughs. It is about energy. The world is buzzing with the new magic of the age, electricity, radio waves, and the mysterious invisible power of the atom. You are not sick, exactly. You are just dim. You feel the heavy, dragging weight of modern ennui. Your golf swing is sluggish. Your libido is quiet. Your mind feels like a battery that has lost its charge. You go to your doctor, a man who smells of expensive tobacco and confidence. He tells you that you are suffering from a lack of vitality. Your metabolic fires are banking. You need a spark. You need the sunshine cure. He hands you a small, elegant bottle. It is not a murky syrup or a greasy salve. It is crystal clear. The label is embossed with gold leaf, radiating authority and class. It reads, Radither, certified radioactive water. You hold it up to the light. It looks like ordinary water, but you know better. You know that inside this glass, suspended in the triple distilled fluid, are trace amounts of radium-226 and mesothorium. To the modern ear, these are the names of isotopes that belong in a lead-lined drum deep underground. To you, in 1925, they are the names of the gods. Radium is the new miracle. It glows in the dark. It burns tumors away. It drives the luminous dials of the watches that soldiers wore in the Great War. It is pure, distilled energy. And the logic of the day is simple. If energy is life, then consuming pure energy must be the ultimate health tonic. It is the liquid sunshine that will banish the shadows of age and fatigue. You uncork the bottle. It costs you $1, a significant sum, equivalent to a fine dinner. This is not medicine for the masses. This is a luxury good. You are paying for the privilege of being on the cutting edge of physics. You tip your head back and drink. It tastes disappointing. It tastes like flat water. There is no fizz, no burn, no sudden jolt. But as you set the empty bottle down on the marble vanity, you convince yourself you feel it. A warmth in the stomach, a tingling in the fingertips, a sudden clarity of thought. This is the most dangerous placebo effect in history. The radiation is invisible, tasteless, and odorless, so your brain fills in the blank with what it expects to feel. Power. You are drinking the same force that powers the stars. How could you not feel amazing? You decide to commit to the regimen. The manufacturer recommends 3 bottles a day, 1 with every meal. You order them by the case. They arrive in wooden crates, heavily packed with straw, stamped with the seal of the Bailey Radium Laboratories. You line them up on your shelf like soldiers. They are your secret weapon against mediocrity. Inside your body, a microscopic invasion is taking place. When you drink the water, the radium doesn't just pass through you. If it were merely passing through, the damage would be limited to a few burnt cells in your gut. The tragedy of radium is that it is a chemical imposter. On the periodic table, radium sits in the same column as calcium. It shares the same valence electrons. To your body's biological construction crews, radium looks exactly like calcium's slightly heavier, more energetic cousin. Your body is constantly rebuilding your skeleton. It hunts for calcium to reinforce the walls of your bones. When the radium arrives in your bloodstream, your body mistakes it for building material. It welcomes the assassin in through the front door. It takes the radioactive atoms and cements them directly into the matrix of your bones. You are not just drinking radiation. You are becoming the source. You are turning your own skeleton into an X-ray machine that never turns off. But for the first year, you feel fantastic. The stimulation the doctor promised seems real. You play 36 holes of golf. You stay up late at the club, bragging to your friends about the kick you get from the water. You become an evangelist for the glow. You urge your wife to try it for her complexion. You give cases of it to your business partners for Christmas. You are literally radiating confidence. The alpha particles' heavy, high-energy subatomic shrapnel are now firing from inside your bones, outward. They are tearing through your bone marrow, the factory where your blood is made. At first, this stimulates the marrow to overproduce red blood cells, which actually contributes to that flushed, energetic feeling. It is the high of a system running hot. You are red-cheeked and vibrant. You look like the picture of health. You joke about it at dinner parties. I'm so full of energy, I might explode, you say, laughing. It is a dry, dark joke that the universe writes down for later. You pay your bills, signing checks with a steady hand, unaware that the wrist bone supporting the pen is slowly turning into a honeycomb. The cost is astronomical, both financially and biologically. You are spending a fortune to dismantle your own DNA. You are the ultimate consumer. You have consumed so much that you are now consuming yourself. The manufacturer sends you pamphlets with glowing testimonials. The great therapeutic agent, they call it. They claim it cures everything from rheumatism to impotence. And in a way, they are right. If you drink enough of it, you will certainly stop complaining about your rheumatism. Mostly because you will be dead. You look at the empty bottle in your hand. It is such a small thing. It feels harmless. You wonder if you should take a fourth one today, just for an extra boost before the theater. Why not? If 3 is good, 4 must be better. That is the American way. You pop the cork. You drink the water. You wipe your mouth with a silk handkerchief. You don't feel the alpha particle that just shredded a strand of DNA in your jawbone. You don't feel the cell mutation that has just begun in your femur. You only feel the wealth, the status, and the warm, fuzzy knowledge that you are living in the future. The light in the bathroom seems bright, reflecting off the white tiles. But you are brighter. If you stood in front of a Geiger counter right now, it would scream. You are a walking hazard. You are a biological dirty bomb wrapped in a tuxedo. But the pain hasn't started yet. The ache is still a few months away. For now, you are simply the man who drank the sun. You smile at your reflection, admiring your strong, white teeth. You should enjoy them while they are still attached to your skull. You turn off the light and leave the room, but in the dark, deep inside the marrow of your existence, the light stays on. The euphoria of the sunshine cure does not end with a crash. It ends with a twinge. It starts as a vague discomfort in your mouth, a dull throb in the lower jaw that you initially dismiss as a sinus headache or perhaps a popcorn kernel stuck between your molars. You are a man of vitality, fueled by the energy of the atom. You do not have time for toothaches. You take another swig of Radither to numb it, trusting the liquid sunshine to burn away the infection, just as it burns away your fatigue. But the throb does not go away. It deepens. It burrows into the bone, becoming a constant, grinding presence that wakes you in the middle of the night. It feels less like a toothache and more like your jaw is trying to unhinge itself from your skull. You stop playing golf. You stop laughing at dinner parties. You find yourself pressing a cold compress to your cheek, wondering why the side of your face feels hot to the touch, a localized fever that no amount of aspirin can touch. You go to the dentist. He is a modern man, surrounded by the latest electric drills and X-ray machines. He seats you in the chair and asks you to open wide. You comply, though the movement sends a jolt of agony through your hinge. He peers inside, frowning. He taps a molar with a metal probe. The tooth moves. It doesn't just wiggle. It floats. It sits in the gum like a pebble in soft mud. The dentist looks confused. You are a healthy man in your prime. You have excellent hygiene. Your teeth should be anchored in granite. He decides the tooth must be infected at the root. It needs to come out. He prepares the Novocaine, though he remarks that the gum tissue looks strangely dead gray and bloodless, like old parchment. He grips the molar with his forceps. He braces himself for the resistance of the extraction. He pulls. There is no resistance. The tooth slides out as easily as a knife from butter. But it is not just the tooth. You feel a strange, wet crunch. The dentist gasps and drops the forceps. He steps back, his face pale. You look at the tray. Lying there, next to your perfectly healthy, white molar, is a chunk of dark, jagged bone. A piece of your mandible has come out with the tooth, attached to the root like a grim parasite. The hole in your mouth does not bleed. It sits open, a dry, black crater leading directly into the hollow of your jaw. The bone inside is not the creamy white of healthy calcium. It is necrotic. It is dead. This is the beginning of radium jaw. The logic of the tragedy is chemical and cruel. The radium you drank has replaced the calcium in your bones, but radium is unstable. It is constantly decaying, firing high-energy alpha particles into the surrounding tissue. You have essentially built a nuclear reactor inside your face. The radiation has killed the osteocytes, the bone cells, and destroyed the blood vessels that supply the jaw. Your mandible has been suffering from radiation necrosis for months. It is dying while still attached to your head. The dentist tries to patch you up, but there is nothing to stitch to. The tissue shreds under his needle. He sends you home with gauze and confusion. He has never seen anything like this. He asks if you have been working in a match factory, phossy jaw. But you are a gentleman. You work in an office. Over the next few weeks, the horror accelerates. The ache spreads to the other side of your mouth. Your gums begin to recede rapidly, exposing the roots of your teeth, then the bone itself. You wake up in the morning to find blood on your pillow, dark, sickly blood that smells of rot. Your teeth begin to fall out on their own. You are eating soup, and you feel a crunch. You spit out a bicuspid. A week later, you sneeze, and an incisor lands in your handkerchief. You are shedding your skeleton. The vitality you paid for is literally dismantling you. You stop drinking the radither. You throw the remaining bottles in the trash, but the damage is done. The radium is not a drug that washes out of your system in a few days. It has a half-life of 1,600 years. It is welded to your bones. Even if you live to be 100, your skeleton will still be radioactive long after your flesh has turned to dust. You are trapped in a cage of your own making, and the cage is on fire. The pain becomes blinding. It is no longer a throb. It is a scream. The nerves in your jaw are being bombarded by radiation at point-blank range. You cannot eat solid food. You cannot speak without agony. Your jaw becomes brittle. One morning, you yawn a simple, reflexive act, and you hear a loud snap. Your jaw has fractured under the weight of its own existence. It hangs loose, held together only by the skin of your cheeks. You return to the doctor, not the dentist, but a specialist. He takes an X-ray. He holds the film up to the light box. He doesn't need to explain it to you. You can see it. The lower half of your skull looks like moth-eaten fabric. The bone is riddled with holes. It is dissolving. The radiation has chewed through the density of the calcium, leaving behind a honeycomb of rot. It looks, the doctor says, struggling for a metaphor, as if the bone has been boiled in acid. He asks what you have been taking. You mention the water, the certified radioactive water. His face goes slack. The medical community is just starting to wake up to the danger. The girls who paint the watch dials are dying in New Jersey with the same symptoms. The connection is made. The miracle cure is a death sentence. There is no treatment. They cannot remove the radium without removing the bone. And they cannot remove the bone because it is your face. They can only manage the pain, which requires increasing doses of morphine, the very drug the radither was supposed to make you too vital to need. You retreat into your home. You cover the mirrors. You cannot bear to look at the collapse of your own structure. Your cheeks sink in as the bone supports vanish. Your breath smells of necrotic tissue, a stench that fills the room and drives visitors away. You are the monster of the radium age. The energy you felt, the heat, that was the radiation cooking your soft tissue. The flushed skin, that was the inflammation of a body under siege. You were never healthy. You were simply manic with poisoning. You sit in your armchair, a blanket over your lap, staring at the wall. You can feel the hum of the energy inside you. It doesn't feel like power anymore. It feels like a vibration of malice. You wonder how many bottles you drank. 1,400? 1,500? Every single one of them is still with you, lodged in your femur, your spine, your skull. You think about the sunshine cure. It promised to bring the light inside you, and it did. If you were to open your mouth in a pitch-black room, the exposed bone of your jaw would faintly glow. You have become a source of illumination. You are a biological lamp. The irony is absolute. You sought immortality, or at least the vigor of youth. You wanted to freeze time. And in a way, you have radium preserves. Your bones will not decay in the ground like normal bones. They will remain white, pristine, and deadly for millennia. You have achieved a form of eternal life, but the price was your death. The pain radiates from the jaw down your neck. The scream of the jawbone finally stops. It does not stop because the bone has healed, or because the morphine has won, but because the heart that pumped the blood to the nerves has ceased to beat. You have finally succumbed. The official cause of death on the certificate might be listed as radium poisoning, or perhaps a mercifully vague necrosis of the jaw, but the truth is that your body simply collapsed under the weight of its own disintegration. You have shed your mortal coil, but unfortunately, you have not shed your isotopes. In the silence of the morgue, you present a unique problem. Usually, a corpse is a biodegradable object, a temporary assembly of carbon and water destined to return to the earth. But you are different. You are a piece of high-level nuclear waste shaped like a man. The autopsy is a confused and frightening affair. The medical examiner, a man accustomed to the smells of decay and the sights of trauma, is unprepared for what he finds when he opens you up. Your bones, which should be the white, hard scaffolding of your life, are gray and soft. In some places, they are black. When he saws through a rib, it doesn't create bone dust. It crumbles like dry chalk. Your skeleton has the structural integrity of a sandcastle at high tide. But the real horror is invisible. If the examiner were to leave a photographic plate in the room with your body, perhaps in a camera bag or on a shelf, he would find it ruined the next day. The film would be completely fogged, exposed by a light that no one saw. You are broadcasting. Even with your skin cold and your eyes closed, you are emitting a constant stream of alpha particles, bombarding the walls, the instruments, and the examiner himself. You are the most energetic thing in the room, which is impressive, considering you are dead. The preparation for your burial requires a deviation from standard protocol. The undertaker has been warned. There can be no cremation. To burn your body would be an act of environmental terrorism. The smoke would carry the radium particles up the chimney and scatter them over the city, raining down radioactive ash on the roofs of your neighbors. You would be inhaled by the grieving widow 3 streets over. No, you must be contained. Your family orders a special coffin. It is not the standard mahogany or pine. It is a custom job, reinforced and heavy. It is lined with lead. Lead is the shield. It is the dense, dull metal that absorbs the frantic energy of the radium. It is the only thing that can silence you. The coffin arrives, and it weighs nearly 1,000 pounds. It takes a team of extra pallbearers, strong men, sweating in their formal suits, just to lift you from the hearse to the grave. There is a dark humor in this. In life, you felt weightless, buoyed by the energy of the water. In death, you are the heaviest burden anyone has ever had to carry. The funeral is a somber, distant event. There is no open casket. It is far too dangerous to let people stand that close to your face for that long. The lid is sealed, soldered shut to prevent leakage. The mourners stand back, perhaps a little further than usual, though they don't know exactly why. They just know that the doctor whispered something about contagion or emanations. They throw flowers onto the heavy box, and the petals wilt just a little faster than they should. You are lowered into the ground, but even the earth is not enough. To be safe, your lead-lined box is placed inside a concrete vault. You are double-bagged against eternity. The dirt is shoveled back in, the grass is replanted, and a stone is erected. It is a beautiful monument, carved with your name and the dates of your life. It says nothing about the half-life. Down in the dark, the chemistry continues. The biological processes of decay, the bacteria, the worms, are confused by you. The radiation sterilizes your immediate vicinity. The microbes that would normally break you down die before they can finish the job. You are being preserved by the very poison that killed you. You are a pickled specimen in a lid jar. Years pass. The world above you changes. The Great Depression hits. The Second World War burns across the oceans. The atomic bomb is dropped, unleashing the same power you drank for breakfast upon cities in Japan. The world learns to fear the word radiation. The sunshine cure is pulled from the shelves, branded a quack remedy, a lethal mistake. You are vindicated in a way. You are not weak. You were assaulted. Decades later, in the 1960s, scientists might become curious about the effects of long-term radiation on the human skeleton. They remember your case. They remember the man who drank the water. They come to the cemetery with a court order and a team of men in hazmat suits. They exhume you. It is a difficult operation. The ground is hard. The concrete vault has to be cracked open. When they finally hoist the lead coffin to the surface, they run a Geiger counter over the lid. Click, 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 dash, click, dash, click, dash, click. The machine wakes up. It shatters excitedly. Even through the lead, through the wood, through the decades of soil, you are still hot. They open the lid. You are skeletal now, the flesh largely gone, but the bones remain. They are not white. They are a dull, mottled gray, pitted with tiny holes where the alpha particles drilled through the calcium. The scientists take readings. Your femur is as radioactive as a laboratory source. If they were to take a piece of your skull and place it on a sheet of photographic paper in a darkroom, it would take its own picture. This is called an autoradiograph. You are essentially taking selfies from beyond the grave. Historians still argue whether the patients of the radium age truly understood the permanence of their condition. Did you know, when you took that first sip, that you were making a commitment for the next 1,600 years? Radium-226 has a half-life of 1,600 years. That means in the year 3,525, your bones will still be half as radioactive as they are today. You are not a temporary resident of the Earth. You are a geological feature. The scientists take their samples. They treat your remains with the reverence reserved for toxic waste. They reseal the coffin. They lower you back down. This time, perhaps, they pour extra concrete. They want to make sure you stay put. You are a cautionary tale buried 10 feet deep. You lie there in the absolute darkness of the lead box. The silence is profound, but it is not empty. Inside your bones, the atoms are still firing. Bang, bang, a silent fireworks display that no one will ever see. You are glowing. You are warm. You possess a thermal energy that defies the cold of the grave. There is a bleak irony to your immortality. You wanted to extend your life, to defeat the encroachment of death. And you succeeded. You have become a source of energy that will outlast the civilization that buried you. You will outlast the marble of your headstone. You will outlast the records of the doctor who prescribed the water. You are the most enduring thing in the cemetery. But you are also the loneliest. No one can ever be buried in the same grave as you. No one can ever rest beside you. You are toxic property. You have achieved the ultimate exclusivity. You are the king of the dead, sitting on a throne of lead, radiating a power that destroys anything that tries to get close. The sunshine cure worked in the end. It filled you with light. It just turns out that the light is a cold, invisible fire that burns forever, and the only place safe enough to keep it is a box buried deep in the dark where the sun never shines at all. Leave the heavy, lead-lined silence of the grave behind. Rise from the earth, shake off the radioactive dust, and step into a room where silence is a commodity more precious than diamonds and rarer than radium. You are standing in the day room of a state hospital for the insane. The year is 1948, or perhaps 1952, the era of the moral treatment where fresh air and farming were supposed to cure the soul has collapsed under the weight of population density. The asylum is no longer a sanctuary. It is a warehouse for the unwanted. You are one of 2,000 patients packed into a brick fortress built for 500. The air is hot, stagnant, and smells of a unique institutional perfume. Floor wax, boiled cabbage, stale tobacco, and paraldehyde, a sedative that smells like sweet, rotting onions, and oozes from the pores of the men sleeping in the corner. You are here because you are disturbed. This is a catch-all term. Perhaps you have schizophrenia and hear voices that tell you the radiator is plotting treason. Perhaps you have involutional melancholia, a depression so deep you have stopped moving. Or perhaps you're just a difficult woman, a housewife who didn't want to cook dinner anymore and started screaming instead. The diagnosis matters less than the geography. Once you pass through the iron gates, you are no longer a citizen. You are a number in a pajama suit that doesn't fit. The noise is absolute. It is a physical assault. It is a constant, churning roar of shouting, weeping, laughing, and the endless, rhythmic pacing of feet on linoleum. You spend your days sitting on a hard wooden bench, staring at a television that is encased in a plexiglass cage. You cannot change the channel. You cannot leave the room. You are trapped in a human zoo, surrounded by people whose internal realities have shattered, and the shrapnel is cutting everyone around them. You have tried the cures. Oh, how you have tried. You have endured the hydrotherapy. This sounds like a spa treatment, but in the asylum, it is a nice word for being mummified in water. They wrap you in wet, freezing sheets, pulling them so tight your lungs can barely expand. As the sheets dry, they shrink, squeezing you like a python. You are left on a table for hours, shivering, unable to move a finger, while a nurse checks your temperature every 30 minutes to ensure you haven't gone into hypothermia. This is supposed to cool the heated brain. It mostly just teaches you that being cold is worse than being sad. You have tried the insulin shock. This is the gold standard of the 1940s. The doctors inject you with a massive dose of insulin, intentionally crashing your blood sugar until you slip into a hypoglycemic coma. You convulse. You sweat. Your brain, starved of glucose, shuts down. They let you simmer in the coma for an hour, hovering near death, before reviving you with a tube of glucose forced down your nose. When you wake up, you are groggy, confused, and docile. They call this improvement. You call it being too brain damaged to remember why you were angry. And of course, there is the metrazole, a drug that induces grand mal seizures. You are strapped to a bed, injected, and then your body thrashes so violently that patients frequently break their own spines. It is an exorcism by chemistry. You dread the cart coming down the hall. You dread the needle. You dread the breaking. But the voices remain. The anxiety remains. The distress, that gnawing, buzzing wire in your head that won't stop vibrating, is still there. You are exhausted. You are tired of the noise outside, but you are even more tired of the noise inside. Then a new doctor arrives. He is not like the ward attendants who carry batons. He is a man of science, a neurologist with clean hands and a calm demeanor. He walks through the crowded ward like a messiah, untouched by the chaos. He stops at your bench. He reads your chart. He looks at you with eyes that offer something you haven't seen in years, a solution. He tells you about a new procedure. It is a breakthrough, he says, a surgical intervention. He explains the theory, using simple metaphors you can understand. He tells you that your brain is like a telephone switchboard. The wires that connect your thoughts to your emotions are overloaded. There is too much voltage. The result is the anxiety, the fear, the obsession. It is a mechanical problem, and it has a mechanical fix. We don't need to remove anything, he assures you softly. We simply need to sever the connection. We need to cut the wire. It is called a leucotomy, or more commonly, a lobotomy. The word sounds precise, clinical. He shows you a diagram. The frontal lobes, the seat of the self, of worry, of future planning, are connected to the thalamus, the emotional center, by thin strands of white matter. If he cuts those strands, the loop is broken. The obsession cannot reach the emotion. You will still be able to walk, talk, and eat. But the fear, the crushing weight of the world, it will be gone. You look around the room. A man in the corner is eating his own shirt. A woman is screaming at a ghost. The smell of urine is rising from the floor. You look back at the doctor. Will it be quiet? You ask. Yes, he smiles. It will be very quiet. You sign the paper. Or, more likely, your family signs the paper. They are tired too. They are tired of the visits, tired of the shame, tired of the hope that never pays off. They want you back, or at least, they want a version of you that doesn't scream at Thanksgiving dinner. The doctor tells them it is a minor operation. He tells them you can go home in a few days. He tells them it is the surgery of the soul. Historians still argue whether the widespread adoption of a lobotomy was a result of genuine medical optimism or simply a desperate administrative need to clear out the overcrowded wards. Standing there, holding the pen with a trembling hand, you suspect the latter. You are expensive to keep. A cured patient is free. The night before the surgery, you are moved to a different room. It is cleaner here, quieter. You are given a sedative, a real one, not the rot-gut paraldehyde. You lie in the bed, staring at the ceiling. You try to imagine what it will be like. To not care, to not worry. It sounds like a superpower. You think about yourself, your personality, your memories, your quirks. You know, on some level, that these things live in the frontal lobes. You are agreeing to let a man take a knife to the very library of your identity. You are burning down the house to kill a rat in the wall. But the rat is so loud. You hear the screams from the violent ward down the hall. Muffled by the heavy doors, they sound like the cries of the damned. You close your eyes. You are ready. You would let them cut off your leg if it meant the noise would stop. You would let them take your eyes. The brain seems like a fair trade for peace. The nurse comes in to shave your head. The razor scrapes against your scalp, a foreshadowing of the steel to come. She is cheerful. You're lucky, she says. Dr. Freeman is the best. He's done thousands. The number should scare you. It implies an assembly line. But tonight, it comforts you. It means he knows where the wires are. It means he won't miss. You drift off to sleep, the sedative pulling you under. You dream of a white room. A room with no doors, no windows, and no sound. A room where you can sit in a chair and stare at a blank wall forever and be perfectly, blissfully happy. You do not know that the white room is not a dream. It is the destination. You are about to become a permanent resident of the present tense. No past, no future. Just a dull, flat now. The morning comes. The gurney rattles down the hallway. The lights overhead flicker fluorescent tubes that hum with an electric anxiety. You are wheeled into the operating theater. Or perhaps, since this is the modern method, you are simply wheeled into a treatment room. There is no anesthesia machine. There are no scalpels laid out. There is only a small table with a few metal instruments. And a box. The doctor is there. He is rolling up his sleeves. He isn't wearing a mask. He looks like a man preparing to fix a toaster. Relax, he says, placing a hand on your shoulder. This will be over in 10 minutes. He picks up the device. It looks terrifyingly simple. It is a long, thin metal spike, tapered to a point. It looks like an ice pick. Because originally, that is exactly what it was. You lie back. You close your eyes. You wait for the silence. You have spent years listening to the chaos of the asylum, waiting for a way out. And now, the way out is holding a hammer. You are lying on a table that is not in a sterile operating theater, but in a treatment room that smells faintly of floor wax and stale coffee. There are no scrubbing sinks, no anesthesia machines, and no team of nurses counting sponges. There is just you, the doctor, and an audience. Because this is the new frontier of psychosurgery, and the doctor loves an audience. He has invited journalists, other psychiatrists, and perhaps even a few curious orderlies to watch the miracle. You are not a patient today. You are a demonstration. The doctor leans over you. He is not wearing a mask. He is not wearing gloves. He is wearing a suit, perhaps with the jacket removed, his shirt sleeves rolled up to reveal hairy forearms. He looks like a man about to fix a leaky sink, not a man about to restructure the architecture of your soul. We don't need general anesthesia, he explains to the room, his voice booming with the confidence of a carnival barker. It takes too long. It's too expensive. We have a better way. He gestures to a small black box on a cart. It has dials and wires leading to two pads. This is the anesthetic. It is an electroconvulsive therapy machine, ECT. In the asylum, this is usually a punishment or a therapy in itself. But today, it is simply a sledgehammer used to knock you unconscious for 10 minutes. The pads are placed on your temples. There is no countdown. There is a hum, a click, and then a sudden, white-hot explosion inside your skull. Every muscle in your body contracts violently. Your back arches, your teeth clamp down on the rubber bite block, and the world dissolves into a static-filled void. You are having a grand malseizure, inducing a temporary coma. The anesthesia is provided by a box that looks like it was built to jumpstart a tractor. While you are twitching in the post-convulsive stupor, the doctor goes to work. Speed is essential. He has to finish before you wake up. He picks up the instrument. It is the leucotome, or more specifically, the orbitoclast. It is a slender steel rod, about the length of a pencil, tapered to a sharp point. It is modeled, quite literally, after an ice pick found in the doctor's own kitchen drawer. It is a tool of brutal simplicity. He approaches your head. He does not drill a hole in your skull. That is the old way, the slow way. He lifts your left eyelid, pulling it away from the eyeball. He places the point of the pick against the top of your eye socket, right in the soft, pink corner of the tear duct. This is the vulnerability of the human skull. The bone here, the orbital plate, is paper thin. It is the back door to the brain. He picks up a surgical hammer. He positions the pick. Tap, tap. A slightly harder crack. The sound is wet and crunching, audible to everyone in the room. The pick punches through the bone and slides into your frontal lobe. You do not feel it. The brain itself has no pain receptors. You are allowing a foreign object to enter the seat of your consciousness, and your body doesn't even know enough to register a complaint. Now comes the adjustment. The doctor checks the depth markings on the shaft of the pick. He needs to go deep enough to sever the white matter, the fibers connecting your emotional centers to your intellect, but not so deep that he hits the arteries and turns you into a corpse. It is a game of millimeters played by a man who cannot see what he is doing. He grips the handle of the pick. He moves it back and forth. It is a sweeping motion, a windshield wiper arc. He sweeps it medially, then laterally. He treats the organ of human consciousness with the casual dexterity of a bartender mixing a martini. Inside your skull, the sharp edge of the metal is slicing through the thalamocortical fibers. These are the wires that carry your anxiety, your obsession, your distress. They are being severed, physically cut, turning the superhighway of your emotions into a dead end. He withdraws the pick. He repeats the process on the right eye. Tap, tap, crack, sweep. The whole procedure takes less than 10 minutes. It is drive-through surgery. There are no stitches required. The eyelid falls back into place, hiding the puncture wound. The only sign that anything has happened is a little blood trickling from the corner of your eye, which the nurse wipes away with a tissue. The doctor stands back, beaming. He has just performed a transorbital lobotomy. He has separated you from your problems by physically destroying the bridge they traveled on. He turns to the audience. And now, he says, we wait for the awakening. You begin to stir. The shock of the ECT is wearing off. You groan. Your head feels heavy, and there is a dull, throbbing ache behind your eyes, like a sinus infection that has gone nuclear. You blink. Your eyelids are already swelling. By tomorrow, they will be purple and black. You are now the proud owner of a pair of raccoon eyes, the signature look of the lobotomized elite. You look up at the doctor. He leans in close, his face blurring in your vision. How do you feel? He asks. This is the moment of truth. In the past, this question would have triggered a spiral of anxious thought. How do I feel? I feel scared. I feel like the walls are closing in. I feel like I'm dying. But you search for those thoughts, and you cannot find them. It is a strange sensation. It is like reaching for a book on a shelf, only to find the shelf is gone. The panic? It's not there. The voices? Silent. The crushing weight of the future? Evaporated. I feel. You pause, your voice sounding thick and distant. Okay. The doctor claps his hands. Success, he declares to the room. The anxiety is gone. He is right. The anxiety is gone, but so is something else. You feel a strange flatness. The world seems two-dimensional. You look at the doctor's tie, and you notice the pattern, but you don't have an opinion on it. You don't like it. You don't dislike it. It just is. This is the surgically induced childhood that the proponents of the lobotomy advertise. They claim they have returned you to a state of innocence. In reality, they have damaged your ability to engage with the abstract. You live entirely in the present moment now. You are hungry, so you eat. You are tired, so you sleep. You are told to sit, so you sit. You are moving from the operating table to a wheelchair. You are docile. You are quiet. You are no longer the person who screamed at the ghosts. You are a good patient. Historians still argue whether the lobotomy was a medical atrocity or a desperate act of compassion in an era with no other options. Was it better to destroy a part of the brain to save the rest from the torture of mental illness? Or was it simply a way to make the asylum quieter? Lying in the recovery room, staring at the ceiling with your blackened eyes, you do not have the capacity to debate the ethics. That requires complex abstract thought, and your abstract You are sitting in a chair in the sunroom of your family home, or perhaps in the day room of a convalescent home. The light streaming through the window is bright and warm, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. You watch them. You watch a single speck of dust float upward, catch a draft, and spiral down. You watch it for an hour. You do not get bored. You do not get restless. You simply watch. You are the success story. The black eyes have faded to a dull yellow and then vanished, leaving no physical trace of the ice pick's journey save for a small, barely visible scar under your eyelid that no one looks close enough to see. The doctor was right. The screaming has stopped. The violent outbursts are a thing of the past. You are no longer disturbed. You are cured. Your family comes to visit, or perhaps they live with you. They speak to you in loud, cheerful voices, the way one speaks to a slow child or a well-loved dog. Look at the birds, aren't they pretty? They say you look at the birds. Yes, you reply. Your voice is flat, devoid of the musical cadence of emotion. It is a statement of fact. The birds are there. They are pretty. But the word, pretty, has no weight. It is just a label you have learned to apply to colorful things with wings. You feel a strange, hollow sensation in the center of your chest. It is not pain. It is not sadness. It is the absence of resonance. In the past, a sunset might have made you cry with its beauty, or a spilled cup of coffee might have sent you into a rage of despair. Now, the sunset is just orange light, and the coffee is just a wet mess to be wiped up. The bridge between perception and feeling has been blown up. You are receiving the video feed, but the audio track has been cut. You have become a creature of pure stimulus and response. If a tray of food is placed in front of you, you eat. You eat until the plate is clean, then you stop. If you are told to stand, you stand. If you are told to sit, you sit. You are the ultimate conformist. You have no initiative, no spark, no executive function. You cannot plan for tomorrow because tomorrow is an abstract concept that requires the frontal lobes to visualize. And your frontal lobes are now essentially disconnected islands floating in your skull. There are accidents, of course. Sometimes you forget to go to the bathroom because the urge to urinate is a signal that gets lost in the damaged wiring. You sit in your wet clothes, unbothered, until someone notices and cleans you up. They click their tongues in sympathy. It's a small price to pay, they whisper to each other. At least he's at peace. But are you at peace? Peace implies a resolution of conflict. What you have is not peace. It is silence. It is the silence of a radio that has been smashed. The static is gone, yes, but so is the music. So is the news. So is the signal that connected you to the rest of the human race. You spend your days in a state of surgically induced childhood. You might play with a doll or a simple puzzle for hours. You might reread the same page of a magazine, enjoying the shapes of the letters without processing the meaning. You are easily distracted. If a door slams, you look at it. If a fly buzzes, you track it. You are stimulus-bound, trapped in the immediate sensory environment, unable to retreat into the sanctuary of your own mind because the sanctuary has been condemned. The doctor who performed the surgery has moved on to the next town, the next asylum, the next batch of patients. He is a hero. He will eventually perform thousands of these operations, traveling in a lobo-to-mobile, treating mental illness with the efficiency of a fast food franchise. In 1949, the man who invented the procedure, Igues Manes, will be awarded the Nobel Prize in Medicine. The world applauds the silence he has created. They applaud the empty chairs where the screaming patients used to be. You look at your hands resting in your lap. They are still strong. They could hold a pen or a tool or a lover, but they don't. They just rest. The spark, the phantom energy that drives a human being to create, to love, to strive, was housed in the tissue that the ice pick scrambled. You are a car with the engine running, but the transmission removed. You can rev, but you cannot move. Sometimes a memory surfaces, a flash of the old fear, a shadow of the old love. It rises from the depths of your brain stem, trying to find purchase in the cortex. But it hits the scar tissue. It hits the white matter gap. It fizzles out like a firework in the rain. You feel a momentary confusion, a furrowing of the brow, and then it is gone. You go back to watching the dust. Your family tells themselves you are better. They have to. The alternative is to admit that they paid a man to murder your personality while leaving your body alive. They look at your placid face, your empty smile, and they call it recovery. They don't see the tragedy of the quiet statue. They don't see that the person they loved is gone, replaced by a polite, breathing piece of furniture. You are the culmination of a long history of medical cures that were really just subtractions. The bloodletting removed the fluid. The mercury removed the tissue. The radium removed the bone. And now, the lobotomy has removed the self. The history of medicine, you realize, if you could still realize things, is a history of taking things away from the patient until the symptoms stop, even if the symptom is being human. Eventually, the sun goes down. The room darkens. The nurse or your mother comes in to turn on the lamp. Time for bed, they say. You stand up. You walk to the bedroom. You put on your pajamas. You lie down. There is no watch for you tonight. There is no door veil. There is no tossing and turning, no worrying about the wolves or the fire or the soul. You close your eyes, and the darkness inside your head meets the darkness of the room, and they are exactly the same shade of gray. You sleep the sleep of the stone. You are the perfect patient. You are cured of everything, including yourself. The hospital fades. The sunroom dissolves. The sharp click of the ice pick and the heavy thud of the lead coffin echo one last time before vanishing into the silence. You are back in the present, safe in your own time, far away from the sharp edges of history. The barber's blade is dull. The mercury bottle is corked. The radium is buried deep in the earth. The doctors have put down their tools. You have walked through the long, dark gallery of human desperation. You have seen how we tried to bargain with death using pain as currency. You have felt the cold of the draft and the